In this video, I'll show how I created this manga-inspired smoking blender. I start with the simple scene. First I'll add the plane, and position where I want the smoke to come out. Now I'll add a wavy sphere, and leave it outside the scene. Now I'll add a curve, going to edit mode, and delete all the vertices, and draw the path you want the smoke to follow. You can see the direction of the curve by clicking the overlay and select normals. It's important that the direction is pointing away from the chimney, and the first vertex is intersecting with the plane. Going back to object mode, I'll add a force field to the curve, change the type to curve guide, and selecting the plane we first created, I'll add a particle system. In the render tab, I'll change the render type to object and select the sphere. Now when we press play, we can see the particles are going the way we want to. Now I want the particles to move slower, so I'll increase the lifetime to 1000. And I don't want them to start and stop moving. I want the movement to be constant, so I'll change the frame start to -1000. So now when the animation starts, the particles have already completed following the curve. And change the end to match the end of the timeline. In this case I have 250 frames here in the timeline, so I use the same number here. To change the size of the particles, I'll go to the render tab and increase the scale value, and also increase the roundness, so you can have some particles of different sizes. Now add a texture. In the texture tab, select the type blend, uncheck general time, and check size. In mapping, choose strand particle. Now you can see the particles change size as they move across the curve, but not the way we want it. So at the bottom of the texture tab, I'll select color ramp, change the white to dark gray, and the black I'll change until it looks like it's coming out of the chimney. I'll add another point in the middle and make it lighter. At this point, I'll basically move the color ramp until it looks good. Another thing I'm going to do is select the curve, going to edit mode, and press Alt S to scale the curve. That will separate the particles a little bit. Now that I'm happy with how the particles look, I'll go back to the Particles tab, select the empty slot, add another texture. Going back to the Texture tab on top, I'll select the new one. Repeat the same process of selecting Strand Particle, remove General Time, but now I'm going to select Lifetime, Physics Velocity, Damp, and Force Fields. I remove the points from the color ramp and only have a full black one and a full white one. So now the particles start faster and they get slower as they progress across the curve. With this, the particle system is complete, so I start work on the shader. I'm using Eevee for this. I will add a light to the scene, so you can see the material react to the light. Now I select the sphere and add the material. You can delete the principal BSDF. I want the smoke to have a cross-hatching shade style, so I'll add 2 wave textures. If you connect the wave texture to the material output, you can see the lines on the particles, but I want those lines to follow the camera and make it look more flat and 2D. So I'll add a mapping node, connect to the wave texture, duplicate it, and connect to the other wave texture. To make the texture look 2D, I'll add a camera data node, connect the view vector to the mapping nodes. To connect both textures to the output, I'll add a mix color node, set to multiply, with a factor of 1. We cannot see both textures because they're both going the same direction, so I'll add 2 combine XYZ nodes, and a vector map, The bottom combine XYZ node I'll connect to the rotation in the bottom mapping node. And both combined nodes I'll connect to the vector math, and the vector math I'll connect to the rotation in the topping mapping node. Now I can change the rotation of both textures, giving the cross-hatching effect that I want. For the scale, I will use the view distance node, connect to my scale node, and the output I will connect to the mapping nodes. I can use this node to change the scale of the textures, but the textures look too small, so I will duplicate the scale node and put a very low value, just so it's easier to control. Between the textures and the mixed color node, I'll add a map range, so I can change the thickness of the lines. You can also use a color ramp here, but I prefer the map range, so I can change the values using a group input later on. I'm gonna select the nodes used to create the hatching and press F to put in a frame, name it Linus. I want my shader to be able to detect light, so I use a diffuse BSDF, connect to a shader to RGB node, connect to a map range. I'll duplicate the mixed color and change it to screen, change the factor to 0.5 and connect the new node tree. Now as you can see, the shader can detect the light from the scene. I can use the map range to change the strength of the light. I also want to add the outline to the model using Fresnel. Connect the Fresnel to a color ramp, change it to constant, and invert the colors. Add a mixed color node, set to multiply with 0.5 factor. Add the emission shader to RGB, and connect to the mixed color. Now to control how much hatching I want in the model, I'll duplicate the mixed color node, connect both node trees, set it to color burn. With this now I can have an outline in the darker areas. Put in a frame called hatching outline, and I'll duplicate this node tree, change the name to just outline, and connect using another mixed color node. I'll add a map range between the outline tree and the mixed color node, set to stepped linear. I'll duplicate this map range and put it in the end, right before the material output. Now that the shader is complete, I'll select everything, press Ctrl G, and put it on a group. I can connect the group input to all the important values that control the shader, and create a quick menu to make alterations. So I end up with this group node that allows me to make alterations to the shader. One last thing I want to do is add a backface culling outline to the model. First, add another material with just a color black and backface culling. Now add a geometry node. Add a set position, flip faces, and set material, choosing the new outline material created, and join geometry. to make the outlining consistent like when it's hand drawn, add a noise texture, a map range, connect to the color, and a scale node. With a normal node, connect to the vector, and connect to the offset. Now just chain the map range and the noise texture scale until it looks good,